The first of the Armies of books for Bolt Action version 3 is here. And if you're a newbie like me, you're probably wondering what's in here, whether you should get it, and why it's got an FAQ already. Let's take a look. So here it is, Armies of Germany, the first nation supplement for the 3rd edition of Bolt Action. I have to say, as a newbie to the game, I was a little perplexed as to what was going on here. I mean, obviously, it contains the Armies of Germany, but we had those in the back of the book. So what is this book? What do we get in here? And is it worth grabbing? Well, let's take a look at that one from the perspective of a new player. So if you are a seasoned vet, then you probably know everything I'm going to say, and it's probably blindingly obvious. But if you, like me, are new, then hopefully this will help you decide whether you need this book, which if you're a German player, spoilers, you do, and whether it's worth investing in. We did the review the other day of the Warlord app. If you have subscribed to the Warlord app, then you already have all this information, and this is just a physical copy of that book. I mentioned in the intro that there is an FAQ out for this book already. I mean, this has only been out less than 2 weeks in the wild, pretty much. So yeah, it is worth noting that there is an FAQ. We'll cover that at the end and talk about some of the changes that are in there. Nothing too major, don't panic. And in fact, some of the FAQs that have been done are fixing things that a lot of people got hold of this book and went, well, hang on, that's missing. And they were right, it was. So let's have a look at this book. I'm actually going to start at the back. This is 130 pages. And this starts with the process of splitting down the eras of the war. So we actually have in here force guides for his early war. So if you want to play early war, these are the units that are inside this book that you can take. If you're not familiar, a lot of war games split down early, mid, and late war. Where are we? What's the back? And late war. The idea there is that if you are a German player and you want to run your Panther tanks, you don't do that up against somebody who is playing early war British, which had very light, if any, armour and ran mostly field guns and stuff like that. You're not going to have that disparity of technology and equipment. So I think it's really cool that in here we've actually got it broken down. And if you do, I've seen tournaments as well that split down by that early, mid and late war. Having the ability to look in reference here straight away, especially as a new player, is really, really cool. I'm personally a late war player because I love big cats. King Tigers, etc., etc. I think a phenomenal Tiger 2, depending on who you ask. But the best way to think about it, in my opinion, is that early war is mostly your infantry heavy kind of things. It does go up to Panzer IVs inside of here. You have got Panzer IV options inside of there. And you do have Stugs, of course, because Stuggy's got a Stug. But there's a lot more infantry options than there is armour options. When you go to late war, you're getting a lot more tanks. It just is a mass of tank options inside of here. Tank. And then self-propelled artilleries and all the rest of it. So tank destroyers, apologies. So if you want to do a much more focused and limited, much more infantry focused and armor limited version of the game, then early war probably is better for you. If you're like me and you just want all the cool stuff, late war's probably the way to go. But this book splits it down and it'll help you make sure that you are playing at a level that your opponent is. And as the other books come out, they will also contain this. So we can look forward to the US, which is going to drop very soon, having that same breakdown. So they will be able to, you can agree, we're going to play early war, mid war, whatever. And you're going to have lists that play off against each other without one side having a specific advantage. Also, the theory goes. And also, as I say, with tournaments, some tournaments want it. So, we also have some example forces in here. I'm not going to talk about those too much. A lot has been said about this particular Waffen SS force, in that having 10 infantry in total may not be the brightest move. I entirely, even as a newbie, I can see that only having 10 infantry on here is optimism on the part of Warlord. Guys, we really appreciate your confidence in the Waffen-SS. So you have lots of different flavours of force in here as an example from early, mid and late war. And driving VW Beetles, if you so feel the need, which is very, very cool. We like that very much. The rest of this book, pretty much, is stats. It's upgrades and options and choices and variations and thoughts and flavours and stuff like that. For me, the untrained eye, it is mostly in this section in the infantry. We do have some history, etc., and some background for the way that the forces were put together at the front here. So if you are a total newbie and you don't know what the here are, for example, there's some background, there's some information about what they were and the Waffen-SS, etc. And Force-Jäger. So you do have some newbie's beginner guide to what's in the book. There are a lot of additions in this book from where I'm sat on the infantry side of things. Like, we've gained chaplains here. These are not in the main rulebook. They don't exist there. One thing that I noticed was there's a lot of structural changes around the stuff that we did have. So I was running Grenadier squads, here Grenadier squads from memory. He says reaching for his army app so that he can remind himself specifically what he was running. I was running a lot of units which were very focused on one thing or the other. So in my rifle platoons, I was running a lot of here Grenadier squads with assault rifles, because you could max out a here Grenadier squad with assault rifles. You could just stick 10 in there. That was absolutely fine. You could just stick a here Grenadier squad of any flavour, any type of training with 10 assault rifles, which was absolutely horrifically deadly and an absolute meat grinder. You got within the sort of minimum range of those assault rifles, which memory says is 18 inches, but it's probably not. Still learning the game. You get within that short range and they're just throwing out a huge volume of shots. If you get into real close range and you can assault, they just become, yeah, a meat grinder basically for not a lot of points. In this book, the standard here Grenadier squad can only now have 2 assault rifles plus 1 on the NCO from memory. Yeah, so you can have 3 in a squad of 10, whereas in the main rulebook you can have 10 assault rifles in a 10 regular trained squad. If you want to go there now, you have to get veteran here Grenadier squads, and they can have fully kitted out with assault rifles, but they're all veteran, so they are that much more expensive. So the options are still there that we had before, but in different ways and in more painful ways, to be honest with you. We have Panzer Grenadier squads are in here now as well, so they have mechanized infantry, which is a special ability, special rule, which lets them re-roll any order test to mount or dismount a transport, and if they are destroyed, they take less damage than a normal squad. So we're looking at lots of different flavors of infantry in here that have all different benefits and advantages and options of stuff they can do. Which, yeah, it's just the Star Trooper as well. These guys can infiltrate. They have all kinds of buffs. There's just lots of different options of flavoured infantry. And what really impressed me reading through all this, I'm no expert, so I'm not going to sort of expound the benefits or disadvantages. Like, what impressed me is that these are all distinct. They all have their own flavour and feel and place. These guys, basically the German fuzz, the police, these can give benefits to bringing people on. Yeah, if a German force includes these guys, the reserves don't get a -1 penalty for attempting to bring vehicles onto the table. These can do all kinds of buffs to keeping you guys in line and to getting you guys more reliably on the table, because it's the police, isn't it? They look after people and they direct you in the right direction and all this kind of stuff. So they're kind of cool. We also have, I'm just skipping over here because there is so much. Stug, as a Stug fan, having Stug escort infantry, being able to have infantry sat on the flat deck at the back of my Stug, who can then come bundling off and causing violence, makes me incredibly happy. The fact that if they get shot at, they have a tendency to jump off and scream and run in circles. You know, it's not all absolutely sunshine lollipops, but yeah, it's still cool to have that option. And gives me more reasons to take Stugs, because they're basically now transport vehicles, which, you know, everyone needs more transport vehicles. Why can't we give them recce? That seems reasonable. We should be able to do that. We now have cavalry squads in here, so we've got Waffen SS cavalry squads, Cossacks. The Fallschirmjägers now have early and late war options, and we have green options for Fallschirmjäger. So previously, if memory serves, in the main rulebook, they were basically veteran badasses. They now have the option of being less so. Hit the Youth, Volkssturm. We've got all these kind of Kriegsmarine in here. I think there's Luftwaffe as well, options that you can take. You've got a lot more flavour to these guys. But this is another bunch of guys I want to talk about. The Sturm Pioneers, the engineer options inside of this book are quite kick-ass. Now these Sturm Pioneers, for example, these go into the engineer platoon, obviously, but there's recently been the newly released Veterans box, which I have one on the way, so we're going to cover that at some point as well. These little bundles of joy and happiness can have flamethrowers in them. They can have the GRB-39 grenade launcher, which is just awesome, or the Sturm pistol, which is effectively a pistol that kills tanks. It's a +3 penetration, 6-inch range, shape charge pistol. Because yeah, obviously. So these engineers, they have all kinds of abilities like you're used to, but like they did so in the main rulebook. But here they have got these additional, much more characterful, much more flavourful options to put into their individual squads to give them that real distinct use and options on the battlefield. So we have the Sturm Pioneers, and I think we have the Pioneer squad as well, which is early war. So Sturm, I think, are late. Let's have a look. Oh no, they're early mid-war and early mid and late. So we have a Pioneer squad early and a Pioneer squad late as well. So again, these guys have all kinds of brilliant options like flamethrowers and stuff they can take with them. They have demolition charge, which from memory gives you the ability to lay this explosive. Next turn you have to run away from it a minimum of 3 inches, and then it explodes as a 3-inch howitzer. Is it 20 points? Yes, it is. But if you stick that to a tank that's already activated this turn, then comedy ensues the next turn and there's bits everywhere. So, you know, we're here for that one. Absolutely here for that one. So yeah, I think a lot of the other options that are inside of here, it's kind of building on the concept of what we had already. We have Goliath demolition teams in here now, so you can do a little bit of remote control, wannabe Land Raider. I didn't say that. It is. It's a little baby Land Raider. It's clearly where somebody with 2 initials got their idea from. Anyway, a lot of the rest of this, from my untrained eye's perspective, is building on a theme apart from that. That's a mouse. Because of course it is. 11 plus armour on the front. Super heavy anti-tank gun. It's 400 points of, oh dear God. As a minimum. Can't get veteran. I want a veteran mouse just so it doesn't run away. Anyway, So you do have things like the mouse in here if you want to go absolutely bonkers with this. But for the most part, this is things that you've seen in the core rulebook, just added up and spiced up, and those infantry have been massively expanded on, and add some really interesting options to the game. Give you tactical choices, loadout choices, and let you play historically. I'm going to put that as like the little squeaky ear bits around it, because I know has been established many times already on this channel. I am no historical buff. I am interested, but I don't study. So from where I'm sat, this seems to enable you to do these more historically accurate early mid-war and late war type lists to give flavour to your armies through the use of the infantry and through the list selections at the back. The start of the book also contains army special rules, which are slightly updated from the ones that we got in the big rulebook. Hitler's buzzsaw remains the same. The blitzkrieg remains the same pretty much, so we get an additional order for you men snapped action. The bit about NCOs is now you just ignore it, you don't have to roll. So in the big rulebook, if your NCO dies from your squad, then you had to roll a dice, and on a 2+, I think it was, somebody else took over and you avoided the negative morale penalty. That's now automatic. You don't need to make a roll. That just happens for regular and veteran units. And we also get the option to take Panzer Aces on veteran tanks, effectively, which gives them a +1 pen modifier and a +1 modifier on the damage rolls, which is pretty tasty. We also have Defend the Fatherland, which is a pretty detailed special rule, which is defined by the type of troops. So Fallschirmjäger, Waffen-SS, and those guys, they have different versions of that, so it's worth checking that out. But it's essentially a buff option, effectively. So yeah, those are the Army Special Rules. So that's what's in the book, which is really, really great. We're now going to talk about, very briefly, the FAQ that's already out for this, even though this has only been out in the wild for about 2 weeks. So let's take a look at that one. Okay, so this is the FAQ that dropped in the last few days. At the point of recording, it is the 10th. So any updates that have happened to this FAQ subsequently, yeah, what can I say? It's one of those things with these living rule sets. As they adjust things and update things, you're going to end up with this type of problem. But we've had this FAQ, this is out, and we've just had an FAQ for version 3 as well, so I will probably do a little bit on that separately. But what big changes have we got in here? The things like, some of this is clarifying, just updating things, but like with page 32, the Gebirgsjäger squad, I look forward to all of your corrections in the comments of my pronunciation. That squad, they have in the book that when you buy it, they've got Pathfinders as a special rule, which doesn't exist. That's actually Fieldcraft, which alters, it lets them ignore rough terrain from memory, something like that. So that's pretty good. We also have big changes like the Stern Pioneers. The GRB 39 is a team weapon, so you need to allocate somebody as a loader on that one from memory. Medium infantry now getting a spotter on page 50, which is nice. The Nebelwerfer now being a multiple launcher, which it wasn't, which is a substantial oversight because that's a key thing to make it work. The Panzer gaining an MMG. There's a lot of things in here that were missing MMGs. Trucks and Mortier half-track as well, they both were missing the MMGs, which was in the original rulebook, in the core rulebook for version 3, but then just disappeared in Armies of, so it's good to know that they'll be back, or that they are back. Yeah, a lot of this is just errors and things that were included that shouldn't have been, which is, you know, understandable. What is it? It's disappointing. It's frustrating that the process for quality checking and for proofreading the book missed these, because some of these are, I mean, there's one Or is it back up here? Yeah, the Waffen SS Cavalry Squad, their veterans are in the book 16 points, but they should be 15. That's a tough one to pick out, but the missing MMGs, special rules where they shouldn't be some, it's a little bit more annoying, but a little bit more disappointing for a printed book that they missed those things. FAQs, it's good to get the clarification on various bits and pieces and just tidying things up a little bit. There's nothing at this point major from where I'm sat in the FAQs. The bigger things were very much, can my trucks have their gun back, please? And stuff like that, which I think is good that they've responded to. As I say, there are some changes inside of the main rulebook, so we'll cover those later. But for now, if you want a copy of this FAQ, then you may find that in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying what we're doing, please like, share, subscribe, and consider becoming a member of the channel so we can do more of this good stuff. But aside from that, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you all again soon. Goodbye.